If you have some heavy work to do and it doesn't need to be done right now, then I'm going to kindly ask you to use JobScheduler. JobScheduler is guaranteed to get your job done, but since it operates at the system level, it can use several factors to intelligently schedule your background work to run with the jobs from other apps as well. And that means we can minimize things like radio use, which is a clear battery win. And as of API 24, JobScheduler even considers memory pressure, which is a clear overall win for devices and their users. JobScheduler was introduced in Lollipop and is pretty cool because it doesn't perform work solely based on time, but rather based on conditions. For example, you can use set required network type for jobs that you want to execute when the user is on a metered versus an unmetered connection, or you can call set persisted for jobs that you want to persist across a potential reboot. And as of API 24, there are even methods to schedule a job based on an update to a content provider. And of course, you can read the documentation to see how to play with other criteria you might care about, from back-off policies to time limits for scheduling the job. Basically, this is where the magic happens, so spend some time getting it right. You can define these conditions when you are creating the job through the job info object. To build that job info object, you need two things every time, and then the criteria are all the bonus bits over here. But you need a job number to help you distinguish which job this is, and a job service. Now, your job service is actually going to be a service that extends the job service class, and this is where you'll define the work that you'll be doing. But since you're extending another class, you will need to implement a few required methods. OnStartJob is called by the system when it is time for your job to execute. This is where the one tricky part about JobScheduler exists. Your job service runs on the main thread. That's right, the main thread. So use OnStartJob to either perform simple work or to kick off a background thread for complicated work. And if you do kick off something else, you'll need to return true. But if you're done with everything, go ahead and return false. This will let the system know whether your job has any ongoing work still. OnStopJob is called by the system if your job is canceled before being finished, perhaps because the conditions are no longer being met, like the device has been unplugged. So use this for safety checks and cleanup, and then return true if you'd like the system to reschedule the job, or false if it doesn't matter and the job will be dropped. Job finished is not a method you override, and the system won't call it, but that's because you need to be the one to call this method once your service or thread has finished working on the job. That is, if your OnStartJob returned true, because this is how the system knows that your work is really done and it can release your wake lock. So if you forget, your app is going to look pretty guilty in the battery stats lineup. Job finish takes two parameters, the current job, so that it knows which one we are talking about, and a Boolean indicating whether you'd like to reschedule the job. Perhaps your work failed for some reason. So this will kick off the job scheduler's exponential backoff logic for you, or else the logic you specified in job info. Now, as with any service, you'll need to add this one to your Android manifest XML. What's different, though, is that you need to add a permission that will allow JobScheduler to call your jobs and be the only one that can access your job service. Finally, you can schedule a job using JobScheduler, which you will get from the system. Then call schedule using that super perfect job info object you created, and you are good to go. Not so scary, is that? There are a lot of pieces to be sure, and you'll need to think carefully about when and what should trigger your job and what happens if it fails for some reason. But overall, JobScheduler was designed to be easy to work with, so give it a try and go build better apps.